Most people who talk about manifestation are selling you a shortcut. They offer shiny promises. Think positive, raise your vibration, act as if. And yet, behind closed doors, those same people are burned out, confused, or quietly stuck. That's the part nobody tells you. Not because they're being dishonest, but because they themselves are caught in the performance. They've memorized the script, but missed the point. Manifestation is not a trick, it's not a hack, and it doesn't obey wishful thinking or rehearsed affirmations said without alignment. The truth is simpler, but also deeper, and the reason most explanations fail is because they start too far down the road. They focus on results before addressing reality. They talk about the external world as if it were a machine you could manipulate instead of an ecosystem you're entangled with. Here's the shift. Manifestation is not something you do. It's something you allow. It's not about controlling reality. It's about aligning with it so precisely that reality can't help but reflect that back to you. But alignment isn't something that happens in a 5-minute visualization. It's the result of inner clarity. And that clarity is not found in Pinterest quotes or trend-chasing techniques. It's found in understanding. Specifically in understanding the relationship between your perception, your state, and the feedback loop that connects you to everything you experience. This isn't just spiritual philosophy, it's how your nervous system works. It's how your subconscious filters reality. It's how your energy signals to the environment around you what to respond to and what to ignore. And until you get that part right, everything else is noise. This script won't give you a trick to get what you want by next Tuesday. It's not going to teach you how to speak to the universe like it's an AM. What we're building here is different. It's a real explanation, the only one that actually works. Because it doesn't start with the universe. It starts with how you relate to it. Manifestation begins before the desire, before the journal, before the vision board. It begins with the quiet, often unnoticed relationship you have with reality itself. Most people miss this. They think manifestation is about inserting new thoughts into the system, like programming a computer with better code. But it's not the thoughts themselves that shape reality. It's the origin of those thoughts, the space they come from, the frequency they carry, the truth or distortion beneath them. Think of it like this. If you plant seeds in poisoned soil, the quality of the seed doesn't matter. The environment will still warp whatever grows. That's what happens when people try to manifest from a place of fear, from lack, or from unhealed identity wounds. They say, I want to be abundant. But what they're really saying underneath is, I'm afraid I'm not enough. So that fear becomes the dominant signal, not the words, not the journal entry, the underlying frequency. The universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. It reflects your state of being, not your wishful thinking. This is why people can say affirmations every morning for 6 months and still feel stuck. Because if those affirmations aren't backed by inner coherence, they become empty rituals, words without resonance. So the question isn't, what do I want to manifest? It's, what state am I broadcasting consistently, unconsciously, energetically? That's the real beginning of manifestation, not visualizing the outcome, not scripting the perfect day, but tuning into your actual baseline and realizing that your baseline is either aligned with what you want or it's not. If it's not, you're not broken, you're not blocked. You're just running a signal that's out of tune with what you're asking for. And here's where things start to shift. Once you become aware of that signal, not just mentally, but viscerally, you can start adjusting it gently, not by force, not by fake positivity, but by realignment. This is not sexy, it's not Instagrammable, it won't sell on a t-shirt, but it works every time. There's a moment, sometimes subtle, sometimes undeniable, when you realize what's showing up in your life isn't random, it's responsive. Your reality is not just happening to you, it's reflecting you. But let's be precise, not reflecting your conscious thoughts alone. That would be too easy. It reflects your patterned identity, your emotional set point, your unconscious expectations. They're part of you that's running when you're not trying to manifest anything at all. This is where things get uncomfortable for most people, because it means taking radical responsibility, not blame, not guilt, but responsibility, the ability to respond to what's already been created by becoming aware of where it came from. You might be thinking, but I didn't choose this job I hate, or I didn't ask for this relationship to collapse. No, you didn't consciously request it, but something in your energy, some part of you, was operating in alignment with it. Maybe a part of you believed you had to prove your worth through struggle. Maybe a deeper part was afraid of being seen fully, so you attracted a partner who couldn't meet you. Again, this isn't blame. This is the first crack in the illusion, the beginning of power. Because when you accept that reality mirrors your internal world, you stop wasting time trying to rearrange the mirror, and you start focusing on the only thing that matters, your state. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. He wasn't just talking about physics, he was describing the exact mechanics of manifestation. What you manifest is a match to the vibration you live in, not just during your meditations, but in traffic, in your silence, in your decisions, your nervous system, your beliefs, your self-concept. All of that sends out a consistent frequency. That frequency becomes your invitation, and the universe is always listening. This is why someone can say they want love, but continue attracting partners who abandon them. Because if they carry the unconscious belief, I am too much, or I'm not safe being fully seen, that belief becomes the tuning fork, and life delivers what harmonizes with it. Now here's the real problem with 99% of manifestation advice. It skips this layer entirely. It hands you the outer techniques, vision boards, affirmations, 5x55 journaling, but never teaches you how to attune your frequency at the level of identity, because that takes inner work, and inner work doesn't look pretty on camera. You can't monetize shadow integration the same way you can sell manifestation planners. But if you want to stop chasing and start aligning, this is the layer you need to reach. You need to get honest about what your energy is rehearsing every day, not just what you want, what you expect, what you believe is possible, what you think you deserve. This is where the real shift begins. Because once you stop speaking your desires from the throat and start broadcasting them from the nervous system, everything changes. The concept of alignment gets thrown around a lot, but most people don't actually understand what it means. Alignment isn't a mood. It's not feeling good all the time. It's not putting on a spiritual mask and pretending everything's fine while your nervous system is in a survival state. Alignment means coherence. It means your inner world is not in contradiction. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and expectations are resonating in the same direction. There's no war between what you want and what you believe you deserve. There's no part of you trying to manifest while another part is quietly sabotaging it. You've probably had those moments of alignment before, even if you didn't have a name for it. Moments where life just flowed, where the right people showed up, where you didn't have to force anything because everything just clicked. It wasn't luck, it wasn't coincidence, it was the result of a momentary state of alignment, where your being was broadcasting a clean signal, no mixed messages, no internal fragmentation, just congruence. And that's the real secret of manifestation. It's not about effort, it's about signal. The clearer the signal, the faster the match. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to achieve alignment with the mind alone. They think if they say the right words, think the right thoughts, visualize the right images, they'll align. But that's just one layer. The subconscious is deeper. It's older. It's stored in your body, your emotions, your automatic reactions. If your conscious mind says, I want abundance, but your body tightens every time you check your bank account, the frequency being broadcast is not abundance, it's fear. This is why awareness is everything. You can't align with what you're not aware of. If you're carrying inherited scarcity beliefs from your upbringing, they're shaping your frequency whether you acknowledge them or not. If you've never questioned the story that says success requires suffering, it's still running your energy system in the background. So what do? You don't fight those beliefs. You don't shame them. You bring them into the light. You observe them. You get curious. You ask, where did this come from? And is it even true? Awareness softens resistance, and once resistance softens, energy starts to flow. This is when alignment becomes possible, not because you forced it, but because you made space for it. You see, manifestation isn't about convincing the universe to give you something. It's about removing the static that's blocking the signal. When your desires are rooted in a regulated nervous system, when your beliefs support your goals instead of contradicting them, when your emotional state doesn't collapse under pressure, you're not just manifesting, you're magnetizing. You stop chasing. Things start showing up without strain, not because you hacked the algorithm of the cosmos, but because you finally stopped jamming your own signal. That's alignment. And once you taste it, you stop asking if manifestation is real, because your life becomes the proof. By now, you've probably figured out this whole thing runs deeper than repeating affirmations in the mirror. There's something under your words, something behind your vision boards, something underneath the I am abundant mantra you recite while still flinching when the rent hits. It's the felt sense of your own worth, not your conscious opinion of yourself, not the version you post online, the version you actually live from, the self-perception encoded in your nervous system. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your life doesn't reflect what you say you believe. It reflects what your body and subconscious believe you deserve. This is where the concept of the emotional home comes in. Every person has one. It's the state you return to over and over, regardless of external wins or breakthroughs. It's the temperature your inner thermostat is set too. Ever notice how someone can manifest an opportunity and then find a way to sabotage it? Or how someone receives love, then pushes it away? That's not conscious choice. That's the emotional home doing its job, returning you to what's familiar. See, the subconscious mind doesn't care about what's better. It cares about what's safe. And safe often means familiar pain, predictable struggle, known limits. So what's actually happening when people fail at manifestation? They're asking for something that contradicts their emotional baseline. They're visualizing a life of joy while their nervous system is calibrated for disappointment. They're trying to attract success while still unconsciously identifying as the one who always falls short. And no matter how badly they want the new reality, the body always returns to the old one because safety always beats logic. So what's the move? It's not faking your way to abundance. It's repatterning your emotional baseline. Slowly, daily, consciously. You start by noticing how you feel when you imagine receiving what you want. Not how you think you'd feel, but how you actually feel right now. Do you feel excited? Open? Or does something tighten in your chest? Do you feel a low buzz of anxiety, a quiet fear of losing it? A feeling that says, this is too good to be true? That's the signal. That's where the work begins. Because until you shift the internal identity behind your manifestation, until you become someone who's familiar with having what you want, you'll keep pushing it away energetically or behaviorally. This is why people talk about embodiment. It's not just a trendy word. It's the entire point. If you don't become the version of you who already has it, you'll always feel like a visitor in your own manifestations. You'll hold your blessings with a shaky hand, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But when you make having your new normal, not just getting, but having and keeping and enjoying, you stop reaching for it. You start living it, even before it fully arrives. And that's when it comes faster, not because you hacked the system, but because you finally matched it. Let's talk about energy, not in an abstract woo-woo sense, but in a grounded, real way, because energy is the medium of manifestation. It's the thing behind the thing. Every thought, emotion, reaction, belief, it's all just energy, encoded with information. And here's the thing, energy doesn't lie. You can say all the right things. You can write down goals, do the visualization, act as if, but if the energy behind it is fear, lack, or neediness, that's the signal that gets sent. That's what life responds to. It's like trying to broadcast a love song over a frequency that's playing static. The message doesn't land, not because the desire is wrong, but because the energy is scrambled. And the universe, it's not judging. It's not testing you. It's just mirroring back what you're transmitting. You ever notice how the moment you let go of something, it shows up? The job, the person, the breakthrough, it arrives when you stop obsessing, when you stop trying to control it. That's not random, that's energy alignment. Because control is resistance. When your energy says, I need this to happen, what you're actually saying is, I don't trust it's already mine. And that dissonance between what you want and what you believe is the static in the signal. The shift happens when your desire and your energy speak the same language. When the wanting is clean, no desperation, no force, no, if this doesn't happen, I'm screwed energy. Just clarity, just receptivity, just readiness. Think about it like this. When you walk into a room, you feel energy. No one has to say anything. You can sense when someone is open, grounded, magnetic. You can also feel when someone is anxious, closed off, needy. Manifestation works the same way. You're always in a room with life, and life is reading your signal before it listens to your words. That's why emotional regulation isn't just personal development advice, it's manifestation hygiene. You can't attract from a state of panic. You can't magnetize from bitterness or burnout. You might still get what you want, but it'll come hard. It'll be unstable. It won't feel how you imagined. Now, none of this means you need to be perfect. You don't need to be in a blissful, high-vibe state 24/7. That's fake, and it backfires. But you do need to be honest. You need to know your signal. You need to take responsibility for what you're broadcasting. And most of all, you need to know how to shift it. Not by ignoring what you feel, but by moving through it, by regulating your nervous system, by releasing trapped emotions, by using practices that clear the static, like breath work, grounding, movement, meditation, whatever works for your system. Because the clearer your energy, the cleaner the transmission. And when the transmission is clean, reality bends, not because you manipulated it, but because you stopped interfering with the version of you that already had what you wanted, and that's a paradox. The more you trust your own energy to do the work, the less you have to make anything happen. You're not here to chase your desires. You're here to become the frequency that makes them inevitable. Here's something most manifestation content never talks about. The subconscious doesn't care about what you want. It only cares about what you expect. It's not visualizing your dream life that rewires your reality. It's shifting the part of you that believes this is just how life is. Your subconscious is like an operating system. It runs quietly underneath everything, making decisions for you, filtering information, shaping your responses, deciding what's normal. And once something is considered normal, even if it's chaos, scarcity, or struggle, your system will work hard to maintain it. That's why someone can consciously want abundance, but subconsciously stay broke. Because being broke is what feels familiar. It's what feels safe. And what feels safe is what gets repeated. You're not fighting life. You're fighting an internal definition of what's normal. Here's how it works. Let's say you grew up in a house where money was always tight. Your nervous system got used to that. It adapted to survive in that environment, and that adaptation became your default. Now, as an adult, you decide you want financial freedom. You start doing the mindset work. You visualize, you journal, you take courses, but every time you get close to stability, something sabotages it. You overspend, you undercharge, you delay, you quit too soon. Not because you're weak or lazy, but because the subconscious is keeping you inside your safe zone. It's not about what you deserve. It's about what your system is calibrated for. So, how do you rewire that? Not just by thinking new thoughts. You rewire through repetition, emotion, and action. That's the formula. You teach your subconscious a new normal by showing it over and over again what safety feels like at the next level. You don't just say, "I am abundant." You feel the energy of abundance while you're calm, while you're grounded, while your body is in a regulated state. That's when the subconscious is listening. You do things differently in small ways that are just outside your old pattern. but still safe enough to integrate. You make decisions the future version of you would make, not in huge, risky leaps, but in consistent micro choices. And here's the key. You stay with the new pattern long enough for your system to stop rejecting it. This is why so many people bounce between breakthroughs and breakdowns. They touch a higher frequency, then unconsciously sabotage it because their subconscious hasn't caught up yet. So they say, I tried to manifest this and it didn't work. Number, it started to work, but your system freaked out and shut it down. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. You need embodiment. You need to teach your nervous system through experience that joy isn't dangerous, that receiving isn't selfish, that ease doesn't mean you're slacking, that overflow doesn't make you unworthy, and yes, it takes time. Not because the universe is slow, but because your system needs consistency to accept the upgrade. The deeper truth is, you don't manifest what you think you want. You manifest what you believe is safe to have. And the good news? That can change. That does change. But only when you stop trying to force the outside to shift and start making your internal blueprint match the life you're calling in. Because manifestation isn't magic. It's mechanics. And you're the one holding the blueprint. Something strange starts to happen when your internal state begins to change. When you've done enough subconscious work, nervous system regulation, and actual embodiment of the reality you want. Reality starts moving without you pushing. People show up out of nowhere. Random coincidences start stacking up. You overhear conversations that answer questions you didn't even say out loud. You open an email that leads you to exactly what you need. This isn't a fairy tale, it's just the next layer of what happens when you finally stop broadcasting resistance and start broadcasting alignment. Let's be real. Most people don't realize how much resistance they walk around with every day. It's subtle. It shows up as worry, urgency, overthinking, obsessing over timelines, trying to force outcomes. All of that sends a loud signal into the field. I don't trust this. I don't think this is going to work. I need to control everything myself. And the universe listens. It matches that energy because this entire system isn't responding to your words. It's responding to your frequency. And your frequency is made up of your nervous system, your emotional baseline, your beliefs, and your ability to surrender. So when those start shifting, when your system genuinely starts to believe, okay, maybe I don't have to hustle for everything. Maybe I don't have to micromanage my life. Maybe things can actually come to me. Reality bends around that. It's like switching radio stations. You don't need to yell at the static. You just need to turn the dial. And people notice. They don't know what it is, but your energy feels different. Cleaner, stronger, calmer. There's less of that grasping edge. There's more of that quiet confidence. And that pulls opportunities toward you, not because you're manipulating anything, but because your field is no longer cluttered with contradiction. You're no longer saying, I'm ready, while your body is broadcasting, I'm terrified. You're no longer chasing freedom while unconsciously tethered to fear. You're no longer trying to control the outcome because you're finally trusting the process. And here's the paradox that freaks people out at first. When you stop needing it to show up, it starts showing up. Because letting go doesn't mean giving up. Letting go means you're no longer strangling the energy you're trying to receive. It's like holding water. If you grip it too hard, it slips through your fingers. If you hold it gently, it stays. This is why the shift isn't in doing more. It's in being differently. It's why two people can take the same action, apply for the same job, post the same content, offer the same service, and one gets ignored while the other gets flooded with response. It's not what they're doing. It's the energy they're doing it from. One is broadcasting doubt. The other is broadcasting inevitability. So the work becomes this: not trying to make things happen, but becoming someone who expects calmly, clearly, confidently that they will. And when you live from that energy, life meets you there. Not always instantly, not always the way you expect, but always eventually, in a way that's undeniably aligned. It's not about tricks or hacks, it's about coherence. When your energy, mind, emotions, and actions are in harmony, life stops resisting you. Because it's not resisting you, it's just mirroring you. So now we have to talk about the part most people don't want to admit, the subtle ways we block what we say we want. Because even after all the visualizing, journaling, and meditating, a lot of people stay stuck. Not because manifestation isn't real, but because they're trying to manifest while still living in contradiction. Here's what that looks like: saying, "I'm ready for love," while still expecting abandonment. Saying, "I'm open to abundance," while still believing that money is stressful or scarce. Saying, "I trust the process," while obsessively checking for results every 2 hours. And the problem isn't the desire. The problem is the split signal. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. You're technically moving, but you're burning out your engine and going nowhere fast. What's really going on here is simple. Your conscious mind is saying one thing, but your subconscious, which actually runs the show, is saying something completely different. And here's the part that hits. Your subconscious doesn't care what you consciously say you want. It only responds to repetition, identity, and safety. So, if you've repeated the same disempowering beliefs for years, and those beliefs feel familiar, even if they're painful, they become what your subconscious sees as safe. And the moment you try to move beyond them, your system goes, "Nope, that's unfamiliar, that's risky. Let's sabotage that real quick." This is why people self-destruct right before a breakthrough. It's why they ghost opportunities. It's why they go back to toxic patterns or lose motivation at the exact moment something starts working. Because to the subconscious, growth isn't exciting, it's threatening. And until you understand that and work with your subconscious instead of against it, manifestation feels like running uphill. This is why real manifestation isn't just about thinking new thoughts. It's about becoming someone your subconscious actually recognizes as safe and true. So the question becomes, what's your internal definition of home? Is it chaos, struggle, survival, dysfunction? If so, your system will keep trying to return to that. Not because you're broken, but because you're programmed to return to what feels familiar. And here's a shift. You don't force a new identity. You teach it to your body, slowly and consistently, until safety is no longer linked to struggle. You do that by acting as if the new version of you is already real, not pretending, embodying. You start by noticing the choices that come from fear and making different ones. You interrupt the spirals. You regulate the panic. You respond instead of react. You stretch into the identity you're building. And over time, your subconscious goes, oh, this is who we are now. And the universe mirrors that back to you because you're finally broadcasting a clean signal, no mixed messages, no contradiction, just clarity. That's when manifestation stops being effort. That's when it starts being alignment. And from that place, things shift fast. But not because you forced them, because you finally stopped standing in your own way. By now, we've peeled back almost every layer. We've talked about how manifestation isn't about forcing, scripting, or begging the universe to give you something. It's about removing the noise between who you are and what already wants to come through you. But let's zoom out for a moment, because here's what most people miss. The real reward of this work isn't the money, the relationship, or the career. Those things are nice, but they're byproducts. The real reward is who you become when you stop outsourcing your power, when you stop living in a loop of waiting, needing, and proving, and you start existing from a place of already being. That shift changes everything. You don't walk into rooms looking for validation. You are the validation. You don't chase timelines or stress about how. You move like someone who knows that alignment bends reality faster than force ever could. You don't panic when something delays or doesn't go to plan. You pause, you listen, and you adjust without spiraling, because you trust the foundation underneath your desire more than you trust appearances. That's the level most people never reach, not because they can't, but because they're too addicted to checking if it's working. But when you really integrate this, the obsession with when fades, and the question becomes, how can I enjoy where I already am while being open to more? Because you finally realized the point wasn't just to get the thing. The point was to become the version of you who's a match for it. And that person, they think differently. They move differently. They feel differently. Their nervous system doesn't flinch at success. Their subconscious isn't allergic to ease. Their energy isn't split between faith and fear every other day. That person is clear, and the universe is responsive to clarity. So what does all this mean practically? It means you stop treating manifestation like a lottery ticket and start treating it like an inner calibration. You drop the performance. You let go of needing to prove your worth. You release the pressure to be high vibe 24/7 and start being authentic, because that's where your power actually lives. You regulate your system. You create space. You pay attention to what drains you and what expands you. You notice where you collapse your energy to stay small. You choose differently. Even when it's uncomfortable, you embody the version of you who already has what you want, not by faking it, but by aligning your actions, your boundaries, your focus, and your self-talk with that version every day. You'll slip, you'll doubt, you'll forget. That's part of it. This isn't a flawless performance, it's a living practice. But every time you come back to alignment, you strengthen the signal, and life responds. Sometimes in small, subtle ways, sometimes in ways that blow the roof off your old beliefs, but it always responds. Because once you understand how this actually works, once you stop fighting your own frequency and start trusting your inner authority, there's no going back. You see through the game, you stop playing small. And you remember, you were never here to chase anything. You were here to remember who you are and to let life catch up to the clarity of that. So keep doing the work, not because you're broken, but because you're finally ready to stop living like you are. You don't have to beg the universe anymore. You just have to stop arguing with the version of you that already has it. That's when manifestation works, and that's the only explanation of it that actually matters.